The drive in modern school reform to severely disrupt traditional public education is underpinned by the notion that educators in traditional public schools in high-poverty areas don't know what they are doing. No doubt, some of them don't, but many do, and in this post, author Karan Chenoweth talks about some that are successful even if policymakers aren't interested in finding out how they do it. Chenoweth is writer-in-residence at the Education Trust, a national nonprofit advocacy organization that promotes high academic achievement for students at all levels, particularly for students of color and low-income students. She is also the author of the newly published Schools That Succeed, which profiles Artesia High School in Los Angeles, and the creator of a new podcast Extraordinary Districts, which profiles the Chicago School District. By Karan Chenoweth. Over the last 20 years, the national conversation about schools and education has gone from complacent to frantic. Where once we argued about whether schools should improve, today arguments seem to start from the premise that schools are incapable of improving and should thus be reimagined, transformed, and blown up, to use some of the buzzwords that fly around the field of education. This is especially true when we talk about schools that serve children of color and children from low-income homes. In fact, the term low-performing sometimes seems eternally welded to the words high-poverty schools. Yet all over the country are educators who, quietly and without much fanfare, have figured out how to make schools better for students of color and students from low-income homes. Not just a little better, a lot better. They are ordinary educators in many respects, but they have found ways to marshal the power of schools to help students. They make schools vibrant places of learning and growth, places where teachers want to teach and children want to learn. For more than a decade, I have found such educators by going to regular neighborhood schools that, given their demographics, are expected to be mediocre or low-performing. That is, they are schools that do not select or screen their students, most of whom come from low-income families and most of whom are children of color. These schools perform at least as well as predominantly white, middle-class schools. Sometimes they perform at the top of their states. In other words, they are doing what we are told over and over is impossible. Betsy DeVos may not recognize it, but these public schools work. I have been in dozens of them, and they belie the idea that schools are incapable of improving without some kind of dramatic structural disruption. And yet, these highly successful educators are met with a surprising level of incuriosity. Here's an example of what I mean. Artesia High School is in Los Angeles County, and it serves a neighborhood that is considered one of the most dangerous gang territories in the country. Most of the students are either Hispanic or African American, about 75% of whom come from low-income homes. In 2005, Artesia was a mess.